And welcome to Montana Sportscast Podcast. Chris Stratton with us today. Chris, you had a pretty big event going on there last week, I see.
Yeah, we had probably one of the coolest things that we do here in Missoula. Started about 5 years ago. We did skip it during the COVID year, but we have the Battle for Gertie, the Golden Goat, on Friday night, and it was the first time that Big Sky got to participate in that event. And I've been in that Adams Center since as long as I can remember, watching Lady Grizz and Grizz basketball. But when we have this Golden Goat event in that arena, I don't think I've heard it as ruckus, as loud, and as fun as it was on Friday night. And I kind of struggled calling the basketball game. I was so fired up, I lost my voice a couple of times.
Well, that's good and bad, right?
It is, it's just so much fun. The schools, the community, everybody coming out for this event. SWX comes in, televises the event, and Ben Wyman, one of the anchors for SWX, their news program, he does a phenomenal job of firing up the crowd. And during a timeout, he's on the floor and he's yelling at the student sections, and they're fired up. And they're it's just a great event. And it's not just about the basketball. It's about school spirit. They do a couple of different things throughout the week, and it just leads up, and then you just have this explosion at the Adams Center on Friday night. And I'll tell you what, probably the best basketball I've seen all season long. It was a very, very fun event. A lot of good basketball going on, and parents and fans just having lots of fun in probably one of the best basketball arenas in the state.
Yeah, I saw some clips of it, and definitely looked like a good time there, but was had by all. So, well, what else you got on basketball?
Well, that was something I wanted to touch on. That and we're going into our divisional tournaments here. Class B and C and A will have divisional tournaments this week. Double A next week, and then we get into state the following week. And it's hard to imagine that we've blown through January and February, and it's the end of the basketball season for high school basketball here in the state of Montana. But Friday night. I really feel like it was a predecessor to what's going to come to our Double A divisional tournament in Flathead for the western side a week from Thursday. I think coaches haven't said anything, but I think Big Sky boys and girls might scare some teams this year just because of what they're able to do, their energy. They've got a couple of first-year head coaches that are just doing a phenomenal thing with their kids. The kids have, as they say, have bought into the Kool-Aid, and it's just a fun thing to see. And I cover all 5 of the high schools here in Missoula. I don't show any favoritism to any one of the schools over the other. But being a Big Sky graduate, it's a lot of fun to see what's going on with that Big Sky program. It reminds me of back in the late 90s, aging myself a little bit there, of high school basketball in Missoula. We've got some great teams here, and Hellgate girls. I hate to say it, but there's a possibility that they might have peaked a little bit too early. And you go into a divisional tournament, it's one game at a time, and things could be different. But they were showing some signs of not what they were a few weeks ago as a competitor. Still strong, still tough. Great offense. Alex Colville just she smashes the glass on the boards on both ends, but just a little bit of confusion towards the end of the game, and Big Sky was able to harness that energy, and Audrey Hale hitting the buzzer beater for the win for the girls in that first game. It was just electrifying.
Yeah, That was probably one. I think there was like 3 or 4 games like that we had this week throughout the state and all classes that basically came right down to the last second shot and made a difference winning the game. So it's just great to see that happening at this time of the year, Chris, when it's season end and things start really counting now.
Yeah, and Maddie Keese does a phenomenal job. Um, she's got a couple of great coaches on her sideline, and you see the typical huddle in a timeout where the head coach is got everybody's attention, but for the Hellgate girls, you've got Maddie, she's got everybody's attention, but her assistant coaches, they've got key players that they're talking to, and they're getting in the key player's head, getting them set so when they go back out on that floor, everybody is set and ready to go. And it's such an awesome thing to see the collaboration that goes on with Coach Keast and her assistants, of course, uh, her what she does, what she has in her history as a player, says a lot. And then her being able to transfer that into a coach position, it's just phenomenal to see. And it's being a Missoula native and having played for one of the Missoula schools here, and a lot of pride. And she's a lot of fun to watch. But then you look on the other side of the floor, first year head coach Travis Williams, he knew what he needed to do, called the timeouts at the right time, slowed the pace of the game down, changed the direction of things so that um, you know uh, it was more their tempo, and I was a little bit worried because earlier in the game, just before half, Audrey took a pretty hard elbow to the face, and she came off the floor in tears. And in the 3 years that I've watched her play basketball, that's the first time. And I've seen her take some hard hits, but an elbow is an elbow, and when you get that nose uh, hit, it brings tears to the eyes. And she came out at halftime poised, and it didn't even affect her, and she was ready to play. And of course, everybody's worried about the Detroit girl, as well as uh, uh, the center. Her name's escaping me right now, but um, and that's what gave Audrey the ability to hit the 3-point shot at the end. Is Hellgate was watching these two other girls, and it was a quick kick out. The shot was up and in, and that was it. And hats off to both Coach Williams and Coach Keast on what they put together for a phenomenal basketball game on Friday night. Then we take a look at the boys' side. Coach Hayes, a Hellgate alum, a Hellgate champion, in his own right as a player. He's done great things with the program um, as a coach, and having his father, who's a legend, on the sideline with him, and Zach Murphy, his first year as a head coach. Talking to him before the game on Friday night. Just the poise he had, I was in awe. The stage, the atmosphere did not affect him. It was as if he was going into a Monday afternoon practice. I mean, he was ready to go, and it showed. His leadership showed through with the boys, and the Big Sky boys. They had Hellgate's number. Now that's 2 weeks in a row against crosstown teams. Sentinel did it, and now Big Sky did it. Came out and fired up and put Hellgate on their heels, and Hellgate had to fight back into the game. And they're gonna win. They're gonna win some games. They're gonna be a tough team to play at the divisional tournament, and then if they make it to the state tournament, they'll be a tough one at the state tournament. But I think both Sentinel and Big Sky were able to show some of the Hellgate weaknesses last couple of weeks in crosstown games, and uh, Helena and Capital had their crosstown on Saturday. Watched a little bit of that one as well, and it's a tough one for me to decide between Helena and Hellgate as who the top team in the West is.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a toss up, in the West is, and I think the East is kind of the same way, really, Chris. I mean, you had this past weekend, we had Skyview beating West in both boys and girls. I think that was Thursday and Friday night or something like that. So, um, I just think the West is probably maybe a little bit more competitive overall than the East is, but I just think it's going to be a wide open tournament. Both those divisionals, actually.
Yeah, it's I we talked about it over the last few weeks. There's 6 teams out of the 8 on the western side that you just go back and forth. Who are the 4 that we're going to have to pick out of there? And on the boys' side, it gets tougher. Now, Flathead girls have emerged on the western side, and their coaching program, they're just playing some great basketball. They've bought into the coaching that they have there, and it's been a fun program to watch over the last couple of years as it's been rebuilt, because Flathead has been a team that has had to rebuild over the last decade, and what they've got there now, I feel like they're going to be a contender going forward for a long time to come.
Yeah, we mentioned it, in the past shows that that tournament being in Kalispell, Flathead especially, but even Glacier, it's definitely got to help having those home fans at the tournament.
Yeah, and those Kalispell fans, they are so phenomenal. And it doesn't matter what sport it is. I've seen it with football, with basketball, with softball, and their Legion, their support of Legion baseball up there is
Yeah,
bar none. I mean, it's they the Kalispell fans. Not to take anything away from my fans here in Missoula, but they're special fans up there in Kalispell, and sometimes they can get gritty, but all fans do that. Uh, there's a certain amount of passion it takes to be a fan, and the Kalispell fans, they do show it sometimes right on that razor's edge. But yeah, it's going to be a ruckus house up there in Flathead High School a week from Thursday.
well, Chris, where are you going to be this weekend?
Well, I've got Class B Divisional in Anaconda, going over there with Loyola. The Loyola girls on Saturday afternoon, they shocked the Anaconda girls. My pick out of this side of the state for the Western B is definitely Anaconda. Their girls program is great. They've got a couple of or a handful of players that can step in and do what they need to do. The Mitchell girl, she is a ball handler. She's in there fighting for rebounds, and then you've got a couple of sisters that are down there playing as well. And Anaconda is going to be a tough team, and Loyola went into the Snake Pit on Saturday afternoon and scorched a win. They came back. Got kind of down. And really, when these two teams met last Saturday, it's a week apart from them seeing each other, but it was at Loyola. The fourth quarter was owned by Anaconda. It was pretty close all the way through. You get to the fourth quarter, and Anaconda outshot Loyola almost double. And then you come to the game on Saturday with the Loyola girls, and and Coach Ward had them ready and understood that if it was a close game, when you get to the fourth quarter, you had to really tighten those screws down defensively, and that's what ended up happening. And it got to a point where, you know, it was Anaconda was having to foul to kind of keep themselves in the game, and Loyola hit the free throws that they needed to hit in order to get that win. And I've been in the snake pit many a times, and um, I haven't heard a hush over the crowd as there was when that buzzer went off on Saturday and Loyola came out on top.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I had Blake on earlier. We did his show earlier today, and he was talking a little bit about that game as well. And that it makes a big difference as far as seeding going into this divisional tournament because nobody wants to be on the same side as Big Fork.
No, Big Fork is playing some great basketball, and they're going to be a contender on both the boys and the girls side. They always have some quality basketball up there in Big Fork. They're always a challenge in Class B basketball, and so I'm excited to get over there on Thursday and see what's going on with the tournament. The Loyola kids play early. Now on the boys' side of things, um, talking to some people over the weekend, um, everybody has their hands on the Loyola boys to possibly win a state tournament this year. Um, I think Big Fork is the one challenge for them. Fairview is going to be another challenge for them, but it's hard to play the Loyola boys when you lock down the paint and then you turn around and their four and fives, their forwards and their centers are knocking down 3-point shots, and it's tough to really scheme against something like that. And it's a lot of fun to watch. I'm not. I love the close games. I love the 1, 2, 3-point games, but the way that these Loyola boys are playing, I've talked to the Loyola coaches all year long, and Chris, we're not going to win a state tournament this year. We're 1, maybe 2 years away from winning a state tournament, but looking at them on the floor, Coach Anderson just picked up where he left off, and just has plugged players in and has done a great job. And that's the other thing with Coach Anderson. They came into I got there just before the team did on Saturday, and he came in and he was standing there at the doorway of the snake pit. And you and I both know the legendary court that is, and who's played there, and to watch Coach Anderson walk in there and just take it all in, it was breathtaking to watch that. And I said, Coach, it's not the same because they've had the renovations and everything, and
Right.
and I said, Coach, it's not the same snake pit as old. He says, Chris, it doesn't matter. This is one of the most powerful places that you can play in basketball in Montana.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And Blake was telling me, a little bit about the renovations, and I was actually going to try to come up there this week, but I don't know with the way the roads and the weather's looking. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not, but I'm sure gonna if I can, I'm going to give it a shot anyway. But I honestly think, Chris, I think the Class B boys, on the boys' side of all the classes, state tournaments might be the most even uh, going into that state tournament. Just by at this point looking at the teams out there, and we'll know more after this weekend for sure. But there's just a lot of tough teams that bring something a little different to the plate, each one of them, and it's kind of one thing that's really overlooked is matchups, how you match up with the other team. You know, it is from watching games and doing games. Matchups are huge when it comes, especially to the state tournaments.
Oh, very much so. And we've seen it. A few years ago, Hellgate just dominated all the way through the regular season. They get to Butte for the state tournament. They see Great Falls High, and Great Falls High makes them look silly in the first half, and they end up losing that game to Great Falls High. Great Falls High didn't really do so well for the remainder of the tournament, but they were able to get to that first game and really have a great scheme against the Hellgate boys, and shock the Hellgate boys. And when you get to this part of the season, it's one game at a time. And talking to Blake on Saturday about the Friday night game against Florence, Loyola or Anaconda boys had that game in hand, and they took their foot off the gas just a little bit, and here comes Florence roaring back into it, and they ended up having to win it in the final couple minutes. And that's what postseason basketball is all about. Is that's your opportunity to take everything that you learned all season long, all those competitions, the wins, the losses, the block shots, the missed 3-point shots, and most importantly, those opportunities at the free throw line, and taking those experiences, getting on the floor, and making the most of it.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. And just great time of the year in Montana, and looks like the weather's not going to let us down. It's gonna hammer us a little bit here for the next couple of weeks to make travel tough. But Montana people are going to be loyal to their teams, I'm sure, and get out there and support those kids at those tournaments.
Yeah, it was a little bit crazy on Saturday already with travel. I drove over to Anaconda Saturday morning. Um, Coming through that Drummond area, the roads were kind of slick. I got a little fishtail, and then on the way home, uh, coming back, it was pretty good until you got to about Bearmouth here, close to Missoula. Ended up doing a 360 on the highway and kind of
Oh,
refocused on the driving and but that's just this time of year, and I know that our Montana high school sports fans are going to be packing those arenas. Our kids are going to have the most support that they're ever going to have, and I love it. I'm so excited for the next 3 weekends. I've been just looking at the calendar and rubbing my hands together, and just excited for this time of year.
yeah, and as you said, it seems like the last couple of weeks have gone pretty fast to get us to this point in the season.
I know it's just unbelievable. And then, I do sports year round, high school here for Missoula, and I've been putting together my spring schedules. And usually you've got a couple of weeks in March to kind of relax, but looking at schedules, it looks like some of our sports, weather permitting, are going to get a little bit earlier start than normal. We have some last week of March events coming up, and it's just a wonderful transition. I hate the end of the season because I love the season, but I'm so excited for the beginning of the next season.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you get a new batch of kids at a lot of those, and you get some new things to talk about, new kids to talk about and to watch, and it's uh it's always nice when you can I guess expand your wings and talk about these great kids that we have for athletics in Montana.
And that's the fun thing. When I grew up here in Montana, if you played football, it was all right if you played basketball. Coach didn't really want you to play basketball because there's that opportunity for injury. But things have changed in that time, and coaches are encouraging you to go and play these other sports. And I get to see these kids, not just the Missoula kids, but other communities in Missoula or in Montana. I get to see them a little bit more. I get to see, the football players, the basketball players. I get to see softball players. I get to see Legion baseball players, track athletes, soccer players, and get to know them in multiple sports. And I'm so proud of the fact that we've made that transition where these kids get to shine in so many different sports.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, Chris, I think that'll wrap us up for the day, but drive safe this weekend, would you? Don't be doing any more of those 360s. And uh, yeah, the pit down there at Anaconda, and I think that's going to be some exciting basketball for you guys to call down there on those games down there. So best of luck to all of them, and once again, thanks for coming on.
You bet. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having me all season long. I think this is a phenomenal thing that you put together for our media members to be able to talk about and promote all of our phenomenal athletes across the state.
And I'd like to thank our guests that come on the show and talk about Montana high school sports. Without them, this show would not be possible. And once again, if you like this podcast, please click on the subscribe button below to get alerts when we have up a new podcast.